April 22nd, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 Jig chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. There was no economic data released today to really drive the market. So there's no real time to be more cautious. Well, I guess cautious all the time, but no real time to wait for news. This is what the chart looked like today. In the beginning, for the first, I would say hour, maybe hour and a half to 2 hours, it looked like its prices were range bound. And then it had this two very large leg rallies. You could also probably see this as one big leg. Then there was probably two, maybe three leg sell-off, but I saw it as kind of one big channel here. So I saw the chart like this today. I took a total of one trade, and then there were a couple of other trades in there that I think were possible, but for one reason or another, I wasn't too sure, so I skipped them. Price action wasn't too bad today, but it was a little slow. So this is what the chart looked like in the morning during the pre-market. It had kind of a very slow, deliberate rally with a lot of large legs. I found this yellow up channel, so I thought, okay, prices might be continuing into a rally, like a very slow rally to take back this weird choppy sell-off from Friday. Pretty big sell-off on Friday. It consolidated, kind of found a top of the pre-market top, and then prices started to open. Technically, have a new high here. It's a first entry long, second entry long. I don't like this setup just because it's below the EMA. Signal bar isn't the best. This is the very first minute right on the open. And from my watching the charts, it can be a little gnarly right when the market opens because there's orders set up. And in the pre-market, they might execute right on regular trading hours. Here I do see a new low. It's a first entry short, second entry short. Now I thought this is an almost trade because price action is telling us that we might be going into a trading range. There's this very gradual yellow up channel. So in the yellow up channel itself, there's a lot of swings. I'm not entirely convinced that this is going to be the dominating up channel because it's so slight and gradual. But nevertheless, you do have a push down, a break of this yellow up channel. You had two clean legs up and maybe a second entry short setting up. I drew this purple trend line coming down. It does have a third confirmation. But the thing I don't like about it, even though it has two attempts of trying to make it back into the yellow, I wanted this signal bar, this red one here, to close below the EMA, but it just kind of stopped short. So this is an almost trade because I could see if I was more aggressive, maybe I just put one tick below here. The total risk, this is only about 7 ticks, so it's still well within the rules and risk parameters, but I just didn't really like this, so I decided I want a lower high confirmation. Probably the next few bars right here comes up, hits the EMA, ideally maybe spikes up to this purple downtrend, and then flashes down. Unfortunately, it doesn't do that, and this was a trade that would have worked out. Unfortunately, I'm just a little more picky. It could have been a trade if you're more aggressive. Prices then move. It hits a sideways consolidation. It comes up and tests the EMA again. Unfortunately, I don't see a clean setup that I particularly like. You could count this as a new low. First entry short, potential second entry short coming up. When the second entry short confirms here, because here is not a good signal bar to go short on, here, once it confirms the second entry short, the trade is already too late because you're already close to the other side of the trading range, this area of congestion. And I mean, where would you put your entry? Below here, expecting a push. So you'd be selling at the lows instead of buying at the lows. So this is just kind of something I saw, but nothing happened. Prices then continue. It pushes, causes a failed breakout, pushes to the other side, presses up. Technically, you have a new low. You do have a first entry short, second entry short, but I saw it as kind of one big leg. I grouped this together and said there's a first entry short, potential second entry short. Per the count, it's like a visual second entry short. It's above the EMA. It broke out of this green up channel. So instead of going short, I'm thinking it might make one attempt to go up to test the high, but it did break the lows here. So if you're following this green up channel, you would say it broke the green channel. It did test a new high. So maybe prices are coming back down, but it's a little confusing because EMA is right here. And I would be kind of, it's hard to say you're counter trend trading, but it's a little ambiguous to me. Depending on what you what you took as a trade, you may or may not have stopped out, or you'd just be sitting in this noise. Prices move down, pushes up, breaks out of this trading range, has a failed breakout here, pushes up, kind of makes a corresponding overshoot on this side, and then comes back down. I saw this as a new low, clearly a new low. It's a first entry short, pull back, second entry short. Second entry short, there's no real trade. It just happens to be a second entry short, but there's no real trade I particularly like. It is at the highs and near the pre-market range high. It's a bad signal bar because technically you're looking for a second entry short. Boom, it occurs right here. It confirms a second entry short. This is the signal bar. This is a pretty good trigger bar because it takes one tick above, creates a double top here, and then reverses really strongly and closes at the low. Not only it closes at the low, it engulfs the previous signal bar. So maybe if you're more aggressive, it could have been a good setup. The thing I don't like is it's coming right into the EMA. EMA is starting, not quite sideways, it is starting to trend up. If this had broke below, then I might have considered taking a trade. But I saw this and I said, just like this setup, I'm going to wait for lower high confirmation. Pushes up. So it's a first entry short, second entry short, creates almost like a second entry short failure, but it's not really that clean. So it pushes up. I'm thinking there might be a lower high here, but if before I take my entry, I have to see what this next candle does because it could keep pushing up. It opens down here, pushes up, and then actually closes lower. And I said, here's my lower high. This is the trade I want to jump in on. So I jump in one tick below this guy here. So this is a 50.29.50. I jumped in at 50.29.25. And I looked at it and I said, how low? This is all happening during this stage. I'm thinking if I took an entry, which I was getting ready to do before this one closed, how low would I want to push it? Instead of going for just 4 ticks, 1 point, I decided to go for 6 ticks because 6 ticks takes me just before I hit the lows here. And I definitely didn't want to push for 8 because then I'd be asking prices to go below here, which I wasn't too confident on my chart read. So I just went for 6 ticks and I was able to get it. No runner, just take the entire position off. It was the first trade and the only trade of the day, and it ended up working. It bounces off. So let's see, if I went for this is 6 ticks, yeah, I would have gotten the trade if I took for 8 ticks, but it is pushing it below this very, very apparent swing low. So also where I started my new low, first entry short, second entry short. So I definitely was a little more cautious there. Want to make sure I got out before then. If I were more conservative, I would have just went for the 1 point. But today I saw this. I thought there's probably enough room to get a little bit more. Prices moved down. I saw this. I drew this yellow, excuse me, this red downtrend trend line. So it's like a first push, second push. And I saw this and I was thinking, is this like a new high? Because it's double top, new high, first entry long, second entry long, comes all the way over here. It's too far, in my opinion, to count this as a lower high, but it is a pretty decent candle. And it looks like prices are starting to trend down. It broke out of this, I wouldn't say trading range, but it broke out of this support. And it looked like it broke out, failed breakout, push up, and it's trying a second time. So I don't know what to make of this because it's not quite a lower high. It is lower than the previous highs, but I don't feel it's really grouped together with this setup that well. Also, if you drew one leg down and then potentially a second leg down, it looked like it met the measured move. So I was reluctant to just jump in short just yet, but it worked and it flashed down hard. So this is just a note for myself. I'm just keeping track of various things I notice in the market that I can't quite reconcile or understand yet. But as I get better, maybe another setup like this, I'll feel more confident knowing kind of what it's going to do. Prices kind of break out of this red down channel. At one time I was thinking maybe the red down channel is a little wider, maybe to here. You still have an overshoot. It gets messy. This is just tight consolidation trading, big tails, small bodies, all kind of fitting within this consolidation area. I drew this green up channel, has a breakout. I'm thinking it's going to be a breakout on this side. First entry long. You don't get a second entry long till maybe down here, but by then, this is not really a setup. It's too far from the price act, too far from the setup to include with it. It's another consolidation range. I'm not too keen on jumping on anything like this because there's a doji here, This total range here is only about 2 to 3 points, so it feels very tight trading, especially if you're just trying to scalp 1 or 2 points. It hits the pre-market low, or at least where I established a pre-market low. So here I'm looking for a bounce. I saw 2 legs down. Maybe it's going to start correcting back up if it truly is in a trading range. It gets choppy, it breaks out. So I'm thinking a failed breakout. No clean no clean entry that I can see or feel confident on. So it's more just wait and sit on my hands. Technically, I have a new low here, first entry short, pull back. You technically have a second entry short here and a second entry short failure. But I just wanted, because part of the second entry short started below the EMA and the second part completed above, I wanted a higher low confirmation to feel confident taking any kind of setup going long. Definitely, I'm not thinking of going short either because I'm already at the lows. You could say this is the higher low, but here it just feels too far apart from this setup. It's too stretched. Comes down. Now I'm observing something pretty interesting. It's bouncing off the bottom of this orange up channel, and it bounced off the EMA. Unfortunately, there was no setup here. Pushes up. Still sitting on my hands. There's an overshoot here. It never makes it back to the EMA and actually makes another higher high to the previous. So it's a very strong bullish move. Technically, you have a new high, first entry long, second entry long. This is a second entry long inside bar away from the EMA. The only thing you could maybe claim on it is it's bouncing off the midline, but the midline of this channel isn't very, very firm. It's not, because it depends on how you drew it. So if I said that's the trade, I feel like I'd be almost inventing a reason for a key entry point, and I don't like that. Price and then continue moving up. It breaks out, creates a new high, first entry long, pullback. This is a potential second entry long. I thought this is a possible trade, but it's definitely more aggressive. It's a bounce confirmation off this this orange up channel, and it closed above the EMA. It's a good signal bar, but I'm like unsure because prices just came from an overshoot right here, and it's one push up. It could be a second push up, but with this overshoot, it could generate a strong push and break to this side before it reverses. So it's a possible trade. The risk is like 8 ticks, so 2 points. It's still within the risk parameters. There is, it's kind of battling pros and cons because you do have a confirmed bounce off the orange channel. You do have a confirmed bounce off the EMA close above. It's 2 clean legs down. You could claim, okay, I'm going to go for it, but I felt it's a little risky because I'm not sure if this correction has played out. Looks like if you did enter, you probably would have gotten out here. If you stayed for longer, you might have gotten stopped out. But if you're going to stay for longer, if you knew your profit target was much bigger than the 1 or 2 points, then you would probably be more conservative because you're thinking after this overshoot, it's going to overshoot to the side. But if you're just doing a very quick 1 point scalp, maybe this is good enough. And in this case, it would have been good enough. See, it's like 29.75, so you probably enter at 50.30, and you want to get out at 50.31. So it looks like, yeah, there's clearly enough room for a 1 point scalp. So it depends on your price target. Price then kind of fall out. It starts trending up. So it looked like it was bouncing, not bouncing, but it broke out of this orange channel. And at this point, this yellow channel wasn't drawn yet. I was still playing this overshoot, but it started to get really choppy and ugly looking. So I drew this trend line support. And where this yellow midline was, that was where my trading range was. So it was a little tighter down here. It looked like prices were pretty good, fitting and obeying. Unfortunately, there's no clean second entries that I could find. As an overshoot here, and it almost comes down. I'm waiting for it to bounce off the EMA. It doesn't, but it does bounce off this bottom support, which is nice. Still no good setups that I could find or feel confident in. It breaks out a second time. It started to drift and stay outside. That's where I extended the top of the trading channel to about right here. So I'm thinking, and I'm expecting a move back in. It does. It's just kind of really tight consolidation. EMA is still acting as pretty decent support. It kind of comes back down to EMA. I'm watching carefully to see if there's going to break. And I saw this. I saw this as a new high, first entry long, pullback. Technically, your second entry long is completed here. But this isn't this is the signal bar, and this is the confirmation. So when you see this, it's making me nervous. I'm not thinking of going long. But when I see this, it's a really strong push up. Now, I consider this an almost trade, almost long trade. The second entry long EMA is holding, It broke out of this yellow channel, had an overshoot here. It looks like it might move back in. The problem is it's kind of forming inside this range or this consolidation. It bounced off the bottom of the range, but it moves so much it's already too close to the top of the range. So it's kind of like a second entry long for sure, but it's not a very enticing one. It feels very risky. Looked like it would have worked though. Of course, you don't know this is going to happen. Could have easily just kept chopping sideways. Moves up, breaks out. It kind of drifts and stays outside this yellow up channel. I was reluctant to adjust this yellow channel to be down here to include, because then you don't have very many confirmations here now. You're just dragging it below to have a bounce here and to include this overshoot. So I actually just left it as is up here because it touches much more, many more times. Here, it confirms a lot nicer. And this is just what it is. It was an overshoot that drifted outside. So I just had to treat it as that. And since I don't really know what's going to happen, then I just kind of sit on my hands. Prices then come pushing back down. You have a first entry long, second entry long. This is a good signal bar for second entry long, but it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's also below the EMA. It hits another consolidation area, and this is just, really spindly type candles, which I'm not too keen on. It just tells me that the market's still trying to figure itself out, even if there is a directional bias. It's just very, very ambiguous, in my opinion. Certainly in here, you could look and you can see a first entry long pullback, second entry long, but it just looks, I don't like this type of price action where it's just side by side. So it's hard to really know because it looks like there's a tug of war. Plus you have alternating colors. You have red, green, red, green, red, green. So obviously, it's hard to tell if the buyers or the sellers are going to win out. You could say, well, recently it looks like there's a bearish bias. However, you can't discount the fact that there was this huge push up. So it's a breakout, one push down, consolidation. It could make a second push down and a bounce back up, which is what I was thinking is going to do because this uptrend might have played out, but I don't know. I need more price action to confirm that for me. Prices then kind of chop. I saw this as a new low. It's a first entry short. This is where I saw a potential second entry short. What I liked about this is I drew this orange trend line going down. I like that the EMA is starting to hold prices down. This is a pretty decent signal bar. What I really liked about this is when it opened, it ticked one tick up because some people are thinking, okay, there's a new high. And they're thinking maybe, well, it's actually a new high over here, but they're thinking maybe prices are going to move back into this trading range. And maybe it was this break, one push down, consolidation. Maybe this was the completion of the second push down, and maybe prices will go back up. I also saw it as one measured leg here and a second one. So my expectation for myself was maybe it's going to come down and test this low. But if you decide to go long for whatever reason, it looked like it trapped you, flushed down, decent signal bar, probably a decent trade. There's only 5 ticks of risk here, and there's enough room to the bottom. So here it looked like you would have gotten filled, depending on how many points you're going for. You may or may not have gotten the scalp, but then here for sure, I think you would have gotten the scalp. For me, I definitely would have wanted to exit before I hit the lows here. So I probably would have just gone for 1 point. And prices move down. Within this channel, it just kind of sinks down, bounces, consolidates, and then it's getting too late in the day now, and it just kind of bounces around and goes into the close. So overall, it was an interesting day. There was some big moves, but I didn't find too many setups that I felt comfortable taking, unfortunately. I did take one trade and I'm okay with it. I think it was a decent setup. There were a couple other setups in here that may have worked. Definitely some were more aggressive, but overall, it was a little bit. There was some movement, but it didn't yield too many trades, in my opinion. So hopefully that was helpful.